episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday we have the privilege of coming to your home to share some really important information about money. We say Let's Talk Money with Friends. It's for you, it's your community. So we are thankful when you tag, share, make a comment, and let your friends know that this is a very important topic. We have important topics that we discuss on this show, and they ought to be part of this community. So today's show is a show that's going to be very interesting because of the fact that we are going to be tackling a topic that so many people are either familiar with or not familiar with. But you know what? With Let's Talk Money with Friends, we're all about you. So we're going to make sure that everybody who's watching, whether you are very familiar or not familiar, you'll live here feeling like, wow, I've learned something. And now I'm empowered to either do something or I'm empowered to feel much better about myself and my situation. So tonight's topic is why are prices so high? You know, inflation matters. Inflation. You know, what is inflation? How does it work? How does it impact you? How is it impacting this current generation as well as it could impact future generations depending on how we tackle or we deal with it today? We control it because in my opinion, inflation is going out of control and we do need to do something about that. Because if not, we all gonna have to pay. So without further ado, I have some great friends with me. I always come here with friends because I feel like, you know, having a dialogue or group discussion is always much better than having a monologue. So I'm here to have a discussion with my friends about inflation. So stay tuned, make a comment on our Facebook page or any platform you're watching, whether it is YouTube, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we are on Twitter right now, and I believe we're on one other platform, I'm not sure, but you know, whatever platform you're watching, please stay engaged, make a comment, let us know what you're thinking, and also ask questions. Feel free to ask questions, and we're gonna be looking at them momentarily or as we go, or maybe after the show, we'll answer your questions. So without further ado, let me welcome my friends who are on tonight, and I'm gonna have them introduce themselves quickly, and then we'll dive into this very important topic, inflation. It matters. Dawn, I haven't seen you for a long time. Why don't you?
Yeah, I've been mad busy. Thank you for having me on. I haven't been able to be on for a few shows because I moved to a new location. So thank you for having me on tonight, Wayne.
So inflation didn't keep you from moving, I see.
Nope.
That's good. Maybe you can share your secrets to being able to move upward, even with inflation, right?
Yes,
so you have some great secrets. Oh, you've been sharing them ever since you've been on the show here. What about you, Frederick? How you doing? Welcome to the show tonight. I haven't seen you too in a while.
Yes, I've been very busy. So as always, you know, I'm glad to touch base and always trying to keep up and plug in what's going on. So background, Frederick Media, basically provide media content is one of my companies. So, but I've been doing a lot of content developing and course developing, been working on some of the stuff to talk about things like this and inflation and how serious it is for business owners as well. And
yeah, you know, every week I send out with my requests for proposal. I always send out my requests asking my beautiful friends and associates and people that I've met to join the show. And it's always awesome when folks make, you know, like, for example, Lisa, I know she just came from work, and Dawn was just with a client on the phone, and they make the effort to be here, and I'm grateful for that. So I hope I haven't said, I don't think I've said thank you enough for being here, because this is an important forum, an important platform, and I want to continue to do it because I know it's making a difference, and I'm here to make a difference. And by the way, yesterday, actually, I went to an event, a birthday party for one of our city councilor at large here in Boston, Woodsy Vision. And it was amazing to see people coming up, speaking about this awesome lady and how she's making a difference. And she's always had it in her heart to help community. And I feel like we have a lot in common in that area because I've always had it in my heart to help community. So with that being said, I was at the supermarket with my sister on Saturday. I went to visit her. She has a family, and I went to the supermarket, and I'm like, what's going on? Things are getting more and more expensive to the point where the cashiers, they were younger people, and we were talking about how expensive groceries. The grocery were, and then she said, one of the young cashiers said to us, yeah, it's getting so expensive. I don't know what we're gonna do. Because if our parents are struggling, what about us? So that's why I started thinking about, you know what? We need to have this conversation and we need to let our community know that there are things that they could do and there are things that we need to do collectively to put to support one another and to make it better, make it a better world for you and for me and for future generations. So we'll start with our line of questions. Inflation, we said, the topic is, let's talk about inflation. It matters. So what is inflation? And can anything be done about it? So Frederick, why don't we start with you? What is inflation? How does it work? For someone who's not familiar with the terminology, how will you explain the terminology inflation to them?
Well, I'll start with them understanding and watching the news and what the government does first, because that's what starts it all. So you got to go back a little bit of printing money. And so you got to balance it out. So a lot of money being printed, that means a lot of money is out in the economy. So inflation starts happening when they start raising rates to combat that. So that means, it's like having too much money, but people spending or maybe not spending it. So now to come back, and that also affects how much prices going, like for example, stock market goes way up in value than it should be because you inflated the price. So they combat that by raising interest rates, which is what causes inflation. And it has to do with the other countries and what they're doing also to combat the dollar at the same time. So you have a whole back and forth competition.
Yeah, you're right. But that's very deep for someone who's not familiar with the terminology. So can we talk on a elementary level? Because like I said, there are some people who are, have degrees in economy and they have degrees in finance and all that. They're very familiar with the terminology. They've seen it a million times over. But your average person who's watching this show, who's not familiar. So is inflation the overall increase in prices? Like when things are going up, is that inflation? Is that inflation, Lisa?
Yes, it's when the cost of goods and services are increased overall. So it's across the country, it's for everything. Things that are coming in to the country cost more. So therefore that price increase is trickled down to us as consumers once the products reach the shelves, whether it's at the supermarket, the store, or anything like that.
Yeah, and I also have heard like purchasing power. Dawn, like when, yesterday, Dawn, you just had a birthday. I was saying to someone, like when I was in high school, I remember my mother sending us to the supermarket saying, like, go get a gallon of milk for your cereal in the morning, right? And now that same gallon of milk, same size and everything, is what more money. So they said that your currency, when your money is buying less, the same money, but it's not able to buy the same thing. So going back again to the gallon of milk, I had 99 cents when I was in high school and I could buy a gallon of milk. But today that 99 cents is not gonna do it. What else do you think is inflation, Dawn, for someone who's watching?
Well, of course, inflation is gas, prices of homes, contract wars on the houses, a number of things. But it's part of the matrix. It's part of the matrix. We got to stop thinking inside the box and start thinking outside the box.
Correct.
Because if you stay inside the box, then you're going to be mind controlled and you're going to be fearful. They're feeding us more fear, period.
Yeah.
Fear attracts more fear, which lowers your immune system.
Yeah. I think it's fear. But I mean, like, even when I was talking to these young people and they were saying, how am I going to do it? I'm only 15, 16, and I'm afraid of what's happening.
They'll be able to do it. Gabrielle, it's all in the mindset.
Okay.
It's all in the mindset. Like my husband just bought me this beautiful home that I'm sitting in my healing room. I wish I could show you guys the view. I got a view of a live pond with wild animals and we don't even have to maintain that property. It's owned by the homeowners association, but we have the view. And we're in the middle of this pond. We get to see deer, fish, turtles, all that. And during that time, I almost got caught up in the mind control because my husband was like, I want out of this apartment. We sold our house in Massachusetts. I want out of this apartment. We're going to get a house. I said, you sure this is what you want? He said, yes, when we saw a house. I said, let's manifest it. We didn't have a contract war.
Mhm.
Everybody else, every house had a contract war. And it was way over the amount that they were asking for the house. We got approved. We got our contract accepted within 24 hours for the price we asked for without going into a contract war. So it's mindset. Yeah, they're raising the prices, but remember when gas prices went up before? We're still living, we're still surviving.
I think that was in 2008, right?
Yeah,
We had
2008
similar
and then 2006.
Yeah.
You know, so when the prices were, it went from $2 something to $3, everybody was running wild, and just like what they did with the pandemic with the toilet paper.
Yeah, but at the same time too, I think we all can expect that prices will go up because, you
Yeah,
know,
all the
again,
time.
going back to when I was a child, I mean, what I was saying, your average apartment, a single bedroom apartment was maybe $400-500, right? And I remember a friend from church who had an apartment and she was paying, I think it was a studio or one bedroom, $400-500. And now that same apartment in Malden is going for $1,800. Is that reasonable increase? You know, I don't think it hasn't been that long. What do you
Right.
think, Lisa?
So in terms of like reasonable increase, so yesterday's price will not be today's price, as everyone will say today. So that means that your dollar, you know, yesterday is not worth the same today. So you, in
Correct.
order to keep up with inflation, you know, things that are happening, you'll see is higher wages will likely go up. There'll be changes in the interest rate. So there's different factors that align with what's happening, and things will have to catch up.
Yeah, things will have to catch up, but you know, there was a study done saying like inflation rate in the United States is recorded a 40-year high of 9.1%. Meaning like what you purchased for last year, it's costing the average American $9,000 more to live this year.
Mhm.
Like 1 year. I mean, how many of us do you know got a raise, like an increase?
Not a $9,000 raise. You
Not
can,
a 9.1%, right?
bonus. You might get a bonus, but other than that, they're not giving you that same raise every single year.
Yeah, if you're not getting that raise every single year to outpace inflation. I know a few months ago, we did a show about savings, how important it is for you to not put your money under the mattress. You remember that, Dawn? We said, don't put your savings under the mattress. It doesn't matter how scared you are, how afraid you are, you have to invest, because inflation is what we call a silent thief. Because whether you are aware of it or not, it's happening, and it's you know, you are losing purchasing power, meaning like the value of your money is losing power. You're losing the ability to pay with the same dollar what you paid yesterday, today. So therefore, you gotta invest, you gotta outpace inflation. But at the end of the day, if what you are making to outpace inflation is not as much of what's happening in the market, you're making 3%, but everything else you're buying is costing 9% higher. Is that fair? Do you think that's fair? I know you said don't live in fear. If it's not fair, what can we do to control it? Dawn?
Control your mindset.
Control your mindset?
Control your mindset. I'm gonna tell you, yeah, I may be paying for this pineapple instead of paying $2 for the pineapple. I may pay $7 for the pineapple.
Correct.
But I believe in my power that I'm always gonna make sure that I can afford that. We're not running hungry here. Look at me. I'm not no skinny chick. So we're eating very well. We have more than enough food in our household, and we're not rich. We're not rich. I work from home. This is what I do full-time. I am a full-time certified healer.
Correct.
And spiritual advisor, and I'm doing what I love doing. Tap into doing things that you love doing, and don't be distracted by the lower vibration, because if you know you got it and you're always going to have it, then you don't have to worry about them constantly talking about inflation. They're going to make sales. They're going to make sales.
Mhm.
And kind of tapping into what you're, sorry to cut you off, tapping into what you're saying. It's just doing what you love, right? Doing what you love and seeing how you can make that another revenue stream of income. You need to diversify your income. If you're waiting on that W-2 to deliver things, you will never catch up. You will always feel like you're trying to beat the dollar, which you can't unless you have other streams of income. So that's your investing, things of that nature. So it's very important to tap into that, to just try to diversify your income. The most increase that people are getting is 3.5% per year on your salary. That's not keeping up with the 9.1, like you said, Gabrielle. So you're still short. You're still short some percentages there.
I would like to say is that, mind you, yeah, there's some people that are not awoke. There's some people that don't know how to tap in to that energy to level themselves up. But what I want people to stop doing is to please, guys, stop fearing. There's nothing you can't accomplish. You're not going to go hungry. There's always sources out there. Look, research. There's always, I'm a part of a group right now. You guys can inbox me and I'll add you to the group right here in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, where they're giving away free foods. They're giving, I'm part of groups on Facebook that are giving away free food, free furniture, free clothes, brand new stuff. And pastors of churches, there's always a way. There's always a way. If you can't afford to shop at a grocery store that you want to, research. There's someone that knows someone that's giving away something to help someone. So I joined the group, not for myself, but I joined the group so I can share with those that are not awoke or don't know how to manifest or tap into the energy outside of fear. So there's other revenues out there. There's other sources out there.
So you're saying like the community has to pull together in order to help alleviate some of the fear that we all feeling. But, you know, it's so funny that you mentioned, like, you know, make more money, you know, diversify your income. But inflation, what causes inflation? We know what inflation is, but Frederick, what causes inflation? Isn't it higher wages? Like the more money you make, the more problem? More money, more problem?
Yeah, and it goes back to, like you said, mindset, because you let that chasing the money. You know, actually, I sent you a quote. I was in a conference call today, and I was just blown away what the person said. You know, I forgot the exact quote. I don't know if you could put it up. It's basically talking about the cost of inflation and how even someone with $250,000 income per year.
Oh, I think I have it. Hold on.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Do I have it? Yes, this one here. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Okay. Share screen. And it's this one. That's not the one. Okay, it's always a challenge to do this because I have it on the, but I remember the quote that you said, why is it not here? Do you have it on your?
I do have it on my phone. Pull it up.
Yeah, I think I deleted by mistake. Okay, yeah, it's a quote about how we had dumped in so much money in the market because of COVID. Because you remember, people were getting very low interest loans.
Right.
More money, stimulus packages. We had more money to spend. And then, and the quote even mentioned that those who are making $250,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck because of the fact that after you've had so much money dump in and so much money was available, been available for folks to spend, guess what? The more money you have, the more you want to spend. And that's usually one of the factors that will cause inflation. Would you say, Frederick?
Yes, and I will add to, you know, a year ago when I was talking to Curtis, he's been on your panel before, one of the things he said all the time is that you got a stimulus check last year, and even if it was $1,000, if you had just invested in Bitcoin or any other investment, you know, that's solid, you could have had a higher return on your money. And it comes back to that mindset of what are you going to do with that money? Is it just to pay bills? Because you could keep fighting bills, or you could do something to leverage that bill by increasing your assets. And that quote, you know, it's a statistics from CNBC report. So it's not us or someone making it up. 58% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So we all know we're talking about 40, 50,000. We're not talking about some six-figure income. Well, you're talking about even someone that's making $250,000, is even 30, including 30% of those making that much money. And that's because people always think that they're gonna have, and when I saw that article, the first thing that came to mind as a business person is that that person, we always say, oh, they make a lot of money. Why are you, living paycheck to paycheck? And because they have sometimes a job and they don't have a leverage income stream where they could have multiple streams of income to make that happen for them and not dependent.
Right.
Because if you chase money, like I always tell people, don't chase money, make money chase you and invest it, not waiting for it for the next paycheck to live off instead of investing and doing other things, to help compound your money for you because you're gonna fight inflation.
Yeah. So when we think about inflation, the cost of goods and services going up, we all can feel it, right? Whether it is you going to the grocery store or you're going to fill your tank at the mine is costing me twice as much now to fill up my tank. Where it is, like how much you're paying for rent, that's going up, uncontrollably. It's cost of things that are going up. And usually the habits that are causing it is like the more money you have, the more you want to spend, the more people are spending, guess what? It's creating inflation. And also they said that, when money is readily available to borrow, you said that folks were running to buy properties. And that was part of the reason why we are experiencing inflation right now, because the interest rate was low, 2%, 3%, and people were just buying. They're just buying without control, so that will cause inflation. And also to, supply and demand, when people are looking for things that are not available, and more people are looking for it, so therefore, guess what? You ended up paying a higher price, right? If I want to buy a dress, you want to buy that blue dress as well, but there's only one blue dress and 10 people are looking for that blue dress, guess what? The store is gonna say, 10 ladies are looking for that blue dress, and I only have 2 blue dresses. So therefore, guess what? Let me up the price. Quote unquote, this is because there are some issues that are associated with what they call supply chain issues. But at the end of the day, it's like the more people want it, the more it's gonna cost, right? So let me ask you, how have you been impacted? I know Ms. Dawn is saying, you know what, don't worry about it, have faith. And we will talk about that a little bit later on today. But can you give an example of how, I've already given a story about how I went to the supermarket and I was flabbergasted. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do you do it? And I was joking with Frederick. I said, you know what, maybe if you're single, this is how you can do it. If you want to save on the cost of food, you make 31 friends and go visit each one of them every day. Right, Dawn? I'll come visit you on Monday. I'll go visit Lisa on Tuesday and Fred on Wednesday, and then whoever other friends that I have, and then go just visit somebody every day so I can avoid going to the supermarket. But that's if you're single. If you have 2, 3 kids, you just mentioned, Dawn, that you should build community where you can help one another, right? So can you share a little bit more about that? Because how has inflation impacted you or the people around you? And what do you think you can do to fix it?
Well, I raised 3 children with no child support before I had my phenomenal husband I have now. Raised 3 grown children. So I faced many inflations. My oldest son is 42 years old. Yeah. Okay. He's raising a family of 5. Well, he has 6 children. He built a $500,000 house. He retired from the Air Force, and him and his wife are making it do what it do. They're taking care of their children. He's got 3 children in college. 1 just graduated. But however, myself, when we were going to build a house. When we moved here from Massachusetts, our mission was to build a house. I contacted the builder that I used to work for, that I sold new homes for, that I made big money with. He came and visited us. We went through the whole 9 yards of the floor plan, how we were going to build the house. We picked a lot. The lot was $100,000. We were ready to go to build this house on this lot. After he came back from seeing the vendors, the house went up $100,000 because of fear and supply and demand.
Yes.
And my husband, who suffers from PTSD, he was like, he was freaking out. He's like, oh my God, we're going to be in this apartment longer than we anticipated because we hadn't been in an apartment in years. But I was like, let's just wait until the interest rate goes down. I'm willing to stay in this apartment another for 2 years. We've been there for a few months. He's like, heck to the no. We're not staying in this apartment, Dawn. I'm finding a house. So every house that he looked at, I did not like. And then I said, you know what? I gave it to God and I prayed. And I said, thank you for whatever you are going to provide for us. I'm trusting in you and I'm releasing and letting it go.
Mhm.
And I always wanted a house that had a water view. And he was picking out houses and we would go see houses. We didn't like this house. We liked this house. And then we saw this house. And I was just like, I was fearful at that time. I was like, I don't want to buy anything right now. And I had lost faith because the way the contract wars were going. And then we got where we are today. Yeah, the groceries are higher. They are higher. There's certain things that you can't eat that I used to eat, I can't eat. But I don't want to eat those things either anymore. So it's adjusting your lifestyle and knowing that you can do it. Like I said, there's avenues out there, there's other avenues out there, other portals out there that will help people that have families. Guys, please don't lose faith. Please don't get fearful and stop watching the news. Stop watching that news. The news is mind control. The news is feeding us constant fear. The radio, all these portals are feeding us fear to make us think that we can't afford or we're less than and we can't do it. And as Frederick says, he said, don't chase the dollar, don't chase the money, let money chase you.
Correct.
Because you're always going to be chasing it.
So you're saying stuff because I remember saying to those two young ladies, teenagers, I said, make sure you pray, because I feel like faith, like you said, will definitely help you sustain your sanity during difficult times. And also, I talked to them about, pursuing education so that you will have access to multiple streams of income and being able to find ways to understand, because I think, yes, we don't want to watch the news and be bombarded with so much. But at the end of the day, if you understand a little bit what's going on, you do not internalize the pain that's happening. Would you agree, Lisa? Like when you know what's really happening, you don't blame yourself for not being able to afford certain things because it's not about you, it's about the overall economy, right?
Oh, and if I'm going by faith, remember reading, it doesn't matter who's in government, what's happening, you will be provided for. Correct. So it doesn't matter if it's red or blue, it doesn't matter what's going on. It's about you having somewhat of a focus. And once you do what you're supposed to do, everything will fall into place. So like she said, I have not watched the news for like 4 years, but you should read it. So there's one thing, if you'll get the facts by reading versus watching the same like short clips of something without the full context. If you're watching it on television, a lot of people are fed that. So you don't need it. Read more. That will also feed your mind. Another thing that I could say to combat what's going on with inflation is learn a new skill. Use that time, any free time that you have to learn a new skill, get a certification somewhere, try something new. You never know, you might fall in love with it and figure out a way to monetize whatever it is that you're doing. So those are some of the things that I've been trying to do during this time. And also, if we are going into a so-called recession, this is a good time to invest as well. See what your money can afford to invest in right now, if you have anything extra, and maybe grow some of your food. That's another thing that, everything that's kind of coming into the market, there's no more seeded watermelon. I went to like 18, however many stores, there's not that many seeded watermelons out there. So maybe you grow, your own cucumbers, some cabbage, stick to more things that you can grow. Those are the foods that are alive and that will feed your body anyway. So those are two things. Learn a new skill, keep yourself, abreast of when the market does change, or God forbid you did lose your job. That's okay. You have something else that you maybe can now do freelance. So kind of looking to diversify yourself in those areas as well.
Yeah.
Can I say one quick thing?
Hold on a second, Dawn. I just want to go back to Frederick regarding something we were saying earlier about like the government, what the government can do, especially the Federal Reserve, to help families and to help this economy. Can you, before you say anything, Dawn, can we mention that Frederick, how important it is that the government also does something to help with alleviate our fears and alleviate some of the stress that families are dealing with?
Well, that's a hard one because they're the contributor to it in the first place. But some of the things they do is more or less, increasing interest rates to cut down inflation, so it's a balancing act that needs to take place. But some of the strategies that I talked about is programs, and you also have to, and then going back to the whole watching news, I'm the opposite because I'm in the media field, but also I use the news as a business person to prepare and plan ahead. And because, as I'm learning more and more wealth principles, looking what wealthy people do is 2 steps ahead, you could say. And we have to get that mindset of thinking ahead, don't rely on just, your job skills, but your God-given skills and talents. One of the things I preach about the most today is you have to, this 21st century is dependent on you using your creativity, not your degrees, because your degrees is being automated right now, and your degrees won't be worth it. And that's my personal opinion, and everybody is different. And I know what state I live in, very much degree-oriented state. But as I watch, and I'm big into the technology field, I have an IT background too. I understand, and I just watched some videos just yesterday. It's very scary because I pay attention to a lot of investment stuff, technology, just to see what automation of robots being done. So that's part of the things.
AI.
You get jobs, and someone was comparing Amazon, not disrespect to Amazon, but they automate a lot of the processes.
So you're saying like it's very important that for the government to do something, and they've done something. We have the Federal Reserve, that's a U.S. bank, central bank. And when they're seeing inflation, meaning like prices are going out of control, what do? Like you said earlier, they raise interest, right? We've all been hearing on the news, right? Interests are going up. That's why, unlike you, Dawn, a friend of mine was looking to purchase, because interests have gone up and prices haven't gone down, she basically stopped looking. So that's a way to help alleviate what's happening right now in the economy. So going back to, again, you said you had something to say, Dawn. Why don't you say it, and then we'll go back again to how is inflation impacting us, and what can we do as a collective, because I know it's very individualistic, but as a collective to help one another.
Well, as Lisa was saying, about growing your own fruits and vegetables. And then when Frederick is talking about the media and so forth, I don't know about you guys, but if you notice, whatever you think about, you don't even have to talk about it. You could just think about it. AI is taking over.
Yeah.
I see so many videos, and I listen and connect with, I'm in the conscious community. So we know what's going on behind the scenes. We know what they're doing and how they're trying to keep us in mind control. And I see so many videos, free videos on YouTube and Facebook on how to grow your own fruits and vegetables. But really, the food that we're mainly worried about is protein, as far as so-called protein. Beef, cut beef out your diet, cut pork out of your diet, cut chicken out of your diet, because those all cause inflammation.
Yeah.
Periods. The chicken is the devil, honey. Pork is raises your high blood pressure, raises your pressure.
Something that we don't want to, because this is a live show, we want to be very careful what we say.
Well, but I'm telling you, hold up, Gabrielle, because you do post in my group, in my spiritual group.
Correct.
So my people are going to be watching this too. And I teach this to my people because I don't teach fear to them. Correct. So what I'm saying to you is there's respect to you and all. What I'm saying is, guys, check your diets.
Yeah.
Do your research. Everything that we're talking about, don't just go on what we're saying. Correct. Do your research. Anytime I speak of something, I do my research.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, you guys got to watch what you're eating, because what we are eating and inflation is so high, it's killing us.
Yeah.
It's making us sick.
Well,
it's making our children grow enormous.
Correct.
It's making our children, all of us have problems with obesity. We have to watch this stuff that they're making us fearful of not being able to afford is harming us.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that there are things that you no longer eating because A, you don't like them anymore, and because they're getting more and more expensive. So of course, if you go to the supermarket to purchase, the more healthy you want to be, the more expensive it's gonna be. I went to the supermarket for myself today, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had to call a friend to debrief because I felt so much pain. I felt so much pain because I'm like, what happened? Everything is twice as much. Of course, that's why we're joking. If you are someone who's by yourself, maybe you should go and make a few friends, and just go eat at their home so you can avoid the supermarket altogether. But the truth of the matter is, you can, and not everybody can do that. If you have children, you have to spend money, and inflation is going to impact you. And we want you, I'm glad you said, do not fear, and be very calculating, be very selective as to what you're picking up at the supermarket. Because again, the healthier you are, I think that's the focus, the healthier you are, the more you will be able to manifest greatness in your life, and also be able to balance the craziness that's happening worldwide, right?
Can I ask you a question, Gabrielle?
Sure.
Lisa made a really valuable point. Why do you think that they have seedless watermelons and seedless grapes?
Because they're not natural organic. They're
Okay.
being, they're not organic food. So a lot of much of what's available at the supermarket, especially in certain communities, are not healthy.
90% of those stuff that's in the grocery stores is not real food.
Yeah, it's not. And that's why, again, going back to inflation, and the cost of food is high. So you're paying high prices for things that are not even real food. And then you have housing, which is a problem. You're paying more and more and more for the same apartment. And that's a problem, because I personally believe housing is a human right. Everybody should have a habitable and affordable place to live. And that's a problem. And then education. We talk about, pursuing education on the show all the time. But it's very difficult when you have a young person, a 1-year-old, and you're trying to plan for their education 18 years from now, and you look in projection, and you're seeing that prices are gonna be so high. A $20,000 education today is gonna cost $60,000 in 20 years. And you're like, oh my God, how do you do it? Because of inflation, right? High cost, increasing costs. And also going back again to what you said, it's very important that we understand what's happening. And I think for me, when I was talking to these young people at the supermarket, it's very important not to have fear, and to have faith, and to understand what's happening, because you've invested in education so that you can understand what's going on, and know that it's not your fault. So that's the message today. It's going out of control. That was my question. It's going out of control. What can we do to really take care of ourselves today, and also get the next generation of future generation ready, right? That was the purpose of this.
So I spoke to someone recently. One of the things they told me that, and I've kind of seen it, but I didn't know how serious it was and valid. It's almost like the University of Phoenix. So Google is actually doing a test pilot program. It's been a while, and it's allowing you to learn, more like digital skills, online courses for free. And this is not a long-term program. I don't know how long it's going to run, but you could go into your Google account if you have one, and basically see some of the courses that they have offering to learn 21st century skills. And keyword right there, 21st century skills, to help you be able to be self-sufficient. Because I feel from what she was telling me was the direction and push of what our economy is going towards, what it's our system's agenda. So that's one way to come back.
So when we think about it, though, when we see, like last year, I think actually last month, I was looking at the how many jobs were added in the economy in July of 2022, just last month, over 900,000 jobs. So people are getting employment. We don't have an unemployment issue. Companies have had to pay more to your average person to do the same job. So they are getting higher wages, right? But still, the more money you make, like the song says, the more money, more problem.
It's a reset.
Exactly. You make an additional $10,000 and then everything else is cost an additional $9,000. So you really cannot, because it does affect, we had a show about savings, how important it was to plan for the future, right? Save for your retirement. How can you do that if every dollar you make today you spending on everyday expenses, right? Isn't that something that, I mean, you shouldn't worry about tomorrow, but it's a concern. Would you agree, Lisa?
Yeah, it is a concern. It's one where you have to make sure that you're agile, you're alert, you're absorbing information about what's happening, not only just now, but what are the plans for the future? What's coming up the pipeline, as Frederick said. And that way you can pivot. So an example of, several things that you can think about. So the cost of goods, like you guys were talking about, is going up. They're giving bad food. So do a little bit more research, plant-based diet. That's going to not only just help you health-wise, but overall, if healthcare becomes more expensive, that's something that you maybe have to wait further down the line before you actually need to be constantly going to the doctor. Something to think about in terms of your career, diversify your skills and talents, your God-given ones, and any ones that you're interested in learning. And doing what you love, that keeps you in a great positive position. But not only that, invest. So pay yourself first, not only now, but for in the future as well. So those are some of the key things to keep focused on and have priorities and live with intention.
Yeah, live with intention. But do you also say, I think that will be my last question, that, we live in a society, America is a first world country, wealth galore. And yet we have families who are going to bed hungry because of the high cost. Literally, I was at the supermarket, I don't know, I was overtaken by emotion on Saturday. And I was, I'm a person of faith. So I stopped and I was like, Lord, I pray that families who are coming through here are able to afford this because it's so expensive. So there are folks who are coming, families with children who are going to the supermarket and they cannot afford, So, but at the same time, if someone looks for opportunities to get, support, government support to buy food, they are looked down, right? People look down at them, or even housing. We have a system of Section 8 or different subsidized housing, and a family who's trying to pursue that, I look down at because they're like, oh, you're not able to survive. No, the idea of the survival of the fittest. If you are not able to survive the mayhem, the nightmare that's being created in the economy, like you said, it's man-made. If you're not able to survive that, then all of a sudden you are a loser. And the winners are those who are able to extract, those who are able to accumulate, and those who are able to get more and more and more and more every day. So what should be a paradigm shift for us in this country when as it pertains to what should be the minimum? I mean, in my opinion, minimum families should have food, minimum they should have housing, minimum they should have education, and minimum they should have healthcare. Do you agree? So that we can survive through all of these economic downturns?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. I saw a post the other day that was saying to rent in South Boston, and this is just a room, that it's required that you make $100,000 a year and that you can show proof that you have $10,000 liquid cash assets to rent a room with maybe 3 other people in South Boston. And your credit score has to be above a 700. So there are things right there that—
That's because they don't want them there.
Yes, exactly. But it's still what she's mentioning, what is the bar now? Right? What is the bar and what do you have? Not everyone makes 100,000. Not everyone has $10,000 liquid cash. And yes, it is South Boston, but just in Boston in general, you still need to show proof of funds. So just even for a place to lay your head with 3 other people, that shouldn't be the case. It really shouldn't be the case anywhere, that unless you're living in some exclusive little bubble. Yes, maybe South Boston might be considered that, but still, it's just, there are some things, basic human rights, that we should have, especially for a country that's considered to be the most powerful one in the world. So
yeah. I believe that in Massachusetts, we have the mayor of Boston is fighting for rent control. Many families are not familiar with that terminology, or they don't understand how it would be able to help everyone. Because again, we are part of a community where everybody's very individualistic. We
Mhm.
don't think about cooperation, cooperating, collective supporting our neighbors and supporting the next generation. Because whether you have children or not, when you have a family of 4 who's struggling to pay rent and they're going from shelter to shelter, and the kids are not being able to grow up in a healthy environment, let me tell you, they're not your children, but you are going to be impacted. Are you familiar with how we all going to be impacted if we don't do what we need to do to support one another? Dawn?
You know, I lived in Boston. When I moved from Maryland to Boston, I was in shock.
Mhm.
And that was 11 years ago, actually 12 years ago. I was in total disbelief. I felt like a foreigner in a foreign country
Go ahead.
because I'm coming from the DMV, and the DMV stands for DC, Maryland, Virginia. For those that don't know, we call it the DMV, it's not the motor vehicle or the registry. And how our people live in Massachusetts to how they live here. Not saying we have hoods, but how, and if you guys have ever been here, you know what I'm talking about. It is totally different.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm not gonna go into detail, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And the opportunities are set up against a certain class of people so they can't survive. So
Yeah.
they have to live they have to live in not such safe conditions,
Mhm.
which has actually impacted some of my husband's family members in Massachusetts area for years,
Mhm.
up until now. So I'm just saying, guys, there's nothing you can't accomplish in this world. You can manifest whatever you want. And that's why I was determined to come back here to Massachusetts. I mean, back to Maryland rather, because I saw more opportunities, like the stuff that they're advertising or posting on Facebook and social media. I didn't see none of that in Massachusetts area.
Hmm.
I didn't see that in any of that stuff in the New England area.
Correct.
You understand what I'm saying? So and I'm not into politics. I'm not into politics any way, shape, or form. But you can't go a mile without seeing a whole bunch of billboards or posters of African American or Black American, whatever you want to call them, running for office, trying to make it better for other people.
Mhm.
And that's why I encourage my people, if you guys can come to the DMV, there are better opportunities for you. There's better jobs, there's better living conditions. Even my grandmother, who was the first Black bank manager in Philadelphia, she even said that she knew that people in this area back in the 40s and the 50s did better here than any other states in the United States or in the world, basically.
So sometimes you have to move to get a better
Relocate.
opportunity, relocate to get better opportunities. But for many families who are not able to do that, I feel like there are some things that we can do as a collective right here. And we have to stand up and start asking for at least some of the minimums. And in Boston, like, the housing crisis, the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, is trying to do something about rent control. I believe housing is a human right. I work with a community organization that's fighting for housing justice, and we need that. Food. Every family should have the whatever they call it, the EBT card. Families should have access to that, because you go to the supermarket and you ring whatever 4 or 5 bags and it's $500 or $200. Your average person who's making 35, the median income in Massachusetts, in Boston is $35,000. How can you spend $200-300 every week for food? It's very difficult. And also just educating our kids and being able to get them prepared for the next generation. Because the truth of the matter is, we think we're not interconnected, but we are. We think we are not interdependent, but we are. Look at what happened with COVID-19. So many families ended up, I remember reading or watching online where a family in Chelsea, 8 people in the apartment, because they were so close in together. The small apartment with 8 families, with 8 members of the family ended up dying with COVID because they didn't have the means to rent a bigger house, or they didn't have, multiple relations, I guess, multiple couples were living in the same household. And all of them ended up dying with COVID at the very beginning of COVID. So it's gonna affect us. The reason why we wanted to address this issue today is because yes, so many folks are human, you know, inflation, what is that? How is it impacting me? And we all know it's impacting us. But we also wanted to say that, you know, the mindset of this economy or this society is that you are either a winner or a loser. And I joke about being a winner all the time because I'm, like you said, my mindset, I'm claiming winning. But at the end of the day, some people who are watching today might say, you know what, I feel like a loser because I'm not able to outpace inflation. I'm not able to keep up. I cannot make enough money to cover all my expenses. The key is that you need to figure out how to work in community. Part of that, you have to have faith, like you said, but also figure out how to work in community so that you can demand some of the minimums that you need in order for you and your family to survive, either in this generation or future generations. So I would like to say thank you so much to all my guests for being on the show, my friends for being on the show tonight. I know this is a very technical conversation and that if you're not an economist, it can be very difficult, but I'm glad we had this very personal conversation. And I hope that those who are gonna be watching are gonna see themselves and are gonna be able to say, yeah, I can relate. This is making sense to me. And I heard that I can have faith. I heard that I can build community and find out what I can do in order to fight for the minimum because I'm not a loser. I'm always a winner. You are always a winner if you believe it, but you cannot win on your own. I know we are a very independent, individualistic society, but you will never be able to win on your own. You have to do that with community. So go out, find out what's going on in your community, find out who's hurting, your neighbors. Together, you can find solutions because as I heard yesterday at the event that I went to, we need partners. You can be a partner in your community to help resolve some of the problems that are happening in the economy and outside of the economy. So thank you so much for your time. Tag, share, make a comment, let your friends know that we are here, that we are very excited to be here to tackle some really tough issues. And Let's Talk Money with Friends. It's for you and for them. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being on the show tonight. Have a blessed night, everyone.